Hey, let's talk about the quarterbacks and the tight ends. Let's start with the tight ends. The tight ends, obviously, we made tremendous upgrades in that room, and it was much needed. Not just one tight end, but two, with Anthony Fasano and Julius Thomas. It's night and day from the depth that we had there from this year to last year. Obviously, losing Deion Sims hurt a little bit, but I think Marquise Gray and the preseason he's had should make Dolphins like, okay, we can go three deep here with these tight ends, and it allows us to do different things with different packages on offense. You can't just sit back and relax if you see Marquise Gray, Anthony Fasano, you think, oh, they're running the football. Well, they can also go out for the pass as well off the play action. So we can be more deceiving. We're less one-dimensional with that tight end group. Obviously, Julius Thomas, this is his first year under Adam Gase since being there with Adam in Denver. I'm looking for him to have a really good season this year, not just against the Buccaneers. It's going to be tough with this linebacker unit, but if we can get him, I think if we can get the run game going, they can really open up the middle of the football field and make it easier on our receivers, which if you make it any easier for our receivers, it's going to be a long day as well. And so, yeah, I think our tight ends, especially Marquise Gray with the preseason he had, looking really comfortable in this offense. And, people forget, he was a quarterback in college. He's super athletic. He's not just he's a really good blocker, but he can run as well. I think the tight ends, if everything else goes well with the running game and the offensive line, they can have a decent game as well, especially in the red zone, which is where we need them to step up, especially Julius Thomas. We need him to be that threat in the red zone. Adam Gase loves running that slant. If a tight end's matched up with the running back, or excuse me, if the tight end's matched up with the corner or the safety or the linebacker on that outside, especially with Julius Thomas' size, he loves running that slant in the end zone. And it's a matchup nightmare for defenses. So Julius Thomas needs to make those catches if they're tough catches, whether that's a fade or that seam route. He needs to make those plays in the red zone for us. So I like the tight ends in this game. I think the tight end. I'm not looking for the tight ends. We're not relying on them. That comes with everything else. If we can run the football and we get second and shorts, really allow that play action game to come to fruition there, then I think they're going to have a good game. And then when you look at the quarterbacks, Jay Cutler, obviously, everybody's going to be excited to watch him for his first start as a Miami Dolphin. I don't want him to do anything crazy. I don't want him to do anything insane. I don't want him to throw for 8 touchdowns. That's not what I'm expecting for Jay Cutler. What I want to see from Jay Cutler is him continue commanding the no huddle and setting the tone for the offense and the defense for the rest of the game. He did a tremendous job of running the no huddle. He really, if there was, I don't think there was some people had question marks whether he's, is he really that well versed with the playbook, and we saw that throughout the preseason. Yeah, he ran that no huddle like he had it in the back of his hand. So it's like perfectly to a T. So I really want to see him run that no huddle against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really command the huddle. Be that veteran presence at quarterback. We know Jay Cutler can be a franchise quarterback in this league. And under Adam Gase he was, and he's under Adam Gase again. So I just want to see that Jay Cutler make good decisions with the football. Get the ball out of your hands quick. Don't hold on to it too long. Don't try to do too much, and really let the talent around you help you out. Because obviously this is, in my opinion, the most talent he's ever had on his football team. So he doesn't have to be a hero. And I'm not even saying he has to manage the game. I'm just saying command the huddle, bring that no huddle that we saw in preseason, set the tone for the defense, and that's all I want him to do. Not expecting anything crazy for him. And another thing I want to see for him is be consistent with his ball placement. Because against this secondary, you saw that a lot last year with the secondary. If your ball placement is off just a little bit, they will return that for 6 or pick you off. You got to make sure that ball placement is good. Another thing that you want to see executed is the Dolphins offense last year were one of the best offenses. I think we ranked 1 in longer, like 50-plus yard touchdowns and big plays. We were so good at the big play last year. You have to execute that against a good secondary because you're not going to get a lot of chances of it. Not to bring up bad memories or anything, but against the Seattle Seahawks, that was a perfect example of that. You catch that football, we win that game. So make sure you execute on those long ball plays with Jay Cutler. And I'm sure he will. Obviously, Jay has tremendous deep ball accuracy. That's never been a problem with Jay. But ball placement has to be nice. I want to see him command the huddle. I'm not saying he has to be a game manager, but make good decisions with the football. Let that talent around. Again, he doesn't have to be the hero. Just let that talent around you come to you. Let them make plays. Just get the ball in their hands and let them go to work. All right, so let's talk about the Miami Dolphins offensive line, who have probably the toughest task out of any of the positional groups. The game is going to really hinge on them, whether we win it or lose it. When you look at some of the pass rushers that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers possess, a Gerald McCoy and Noah Spence, especially Gerald McCoy, who they love to move throughout the offensive line, or excuse me, the defensive line, to get the most favorable matchup. They love to move him around, just like the Seattle Seahawks move around Michael Bennett. So it's going to be harder to key on him. It's going to be interesting to see who Gerald's going to match up with the most. I'm going to assume it's going to be Anthony Steen, since he's probably the least talented offensive lineman on our line as of right now. And when you look at our offensive line, going into this game, we have Anthony Steen, who I'm very comfortable with. I think, the job that he did against Seattle last year, and, he's played well in other games. He's played well in other games, not just the Seattle Seahawks game. He was a very solid backup all year for us last season, and he had a tremendous preseason as well. He's been very consistent, so I'm not concerned about Anthony Steen. I think he's going to do a fine job. I don't think he's going to be a liability whatsoever. But when you look at the rest of the offensive line with Juwan James and Laramie Tunsil, and Jermon Bushrod and Mike Pouncey, that offensive line is a top 5 unit in this league. When you look at Juwan James, who's had probably his best offseason in terms of consistency. Last year he left off on a very high note, playing very consistent down the stretch. He had a good game. He had a good last few games. He really, really, really did. Juwan James had a very strong end of the season, and he was probably the most consistent season he's ever had. And obviously Will Hayes, when he got here in Miami, playing against those two, he said those two could be the best tackle duo in the league. So Juwan James is very talented, obviously. So the offensive line going into this game, they're going to have a tough time with multiple different things. If they cannot, if they just don't shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and get it, and just really have more favorable first and second downs, we can't get 1 yard gains, 2 yard gains on first and second down. If we can really establish a line of scrimmage against this defensive line, which is going to be hard, but our offensive line is more than capable of doing so because of the talent on it. We saw what they did last season, and, Laramie has only gotten better. Juwan, there's no reason to think he hasn't gotten better, or just, plays the same as he did towards the end of last year, and will be totally fine. Obviously, Mike Pouncey, in my opinion, when he's healthy, is the most talented center there is in football. So, this offensive line, they have a tough task in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line, but if they just don't shoot themselves in the foot, get holding, stupid penalties like false starts, any stupid stuff like that, illegal, anything dumb, that we suffered last year. We sort of saw what the ones throughout the preseason. We had a lot of false starts. We had some holding calls, just stupid stuff like that. If we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and put our offense in down and distance, we should have, our offense should work just fine. But we have to be really good on first and second down. We cannot get in third and longs against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line, because they have good corners on the outside, which we're going to talk about later. But you can't, against a good front seven, you could have a terrible secondary and still not get enough time to get a 15-yard play in, especially with Gerald McCoy and Noah Spence on the defensive line. So the offense has to get us in favorable first and second downs. There should be no reason why we can't. We have if Juwan James can have put together a season, because he started off slow last year. Again, obviously the Cleveland Browns game is a forgettable one, probably his worst of his career. If he can just stay the way that we saw him for like the last, 10 games or maybe 8 or 9 games there, he can make the Pro Bowl. And I know Laramie is going to a Pro Bowl this upcoming season. There's no doubt in my mind. Seeing how the way he played in preseason, and how much he's improved in the run game. Some of those blocks, like I said, that he threw against the Eagles front seven, which is a more talented front seven than the Buccaneers one. Some of the blocks that he threw in the run game on that goal line are just dominant. And he was not doing it. Those are some super talented guys on that front seven for the Eagles. So I have no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind with this offensive line that we can get in favorable first and second downs, because the talent is there. The talent is absolutely there. And then when you look at the backfield with Jay Ajayi, who's an absolute load, and we're going to talk about them next. We should get into those first and second downs, but we cannot have stupid penalties. If we get in third and longs, it's going to be a long day for Jay Cutler. And again, it's hard to complete if you're in a third and 10, third and 12, third and 13, or even worse, third and 15. That's hard to get when you have a limited amount of time because of the pass rushers on that defensive line. So if the offensive line, which I expect them to, because of the talent on that offensive line, if they could just establish a line of scrimmage and we can run the ball on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line, it's going to be a long day for their defense because of the matchup problems we present. We have a tremendous backfield with Jay Ajayi, Kenyon Drake, and Damian Williams. We have tremendous talent at the skill positions, obviously, and at tight end. So if we can establish a line of scrimmage with the offensive line, to me, that's where this game is going to be won, is the line of scrimmage, especially on the offense, because I know what our skill positions can do, and I know what our backfield can do, and I know what our tight ends can do. It just comes down to the offensive line, and I know what they can do. We just have to be better on first and second down. So if we go into this game healthy, and nothing stupid happens, because this has happened to us before, and we can establish a line of scrimmage, then I think we're going to have a lot of success on offense. Let's talk about the running back group. JJ obviously is a complete monster. He's a superstar. I don't care if you have the best front seven in the league. He's going to be a problem for you to stop. He's one of the best running backs in the league. He's probably the best. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best power back in the NFL right now. There's just nobody better. Obviously, he led the NFL in yards after contact last year, so that's enough said. But, he's a load, and he wears down defenses. So if we can establish a line of scrimmage, the other thing the offensive line has to do is a great job of pulling, and really doing a great job of keeping their linebackers out of the backfield, and that's going to be a tough thing to do when they have Levante David, they have Quan Alexander on that at that linebacker. At the linebacker position, that's going to be tough. Those guys are very, very talented, especially Quan, who's a really good middle linebacker in this league. He's only gotten better every single year. So the offensive line also needs to do a good job of keeping them out of the backfield for Jay Ajayi to get those running lanes. But you could block 9 out of the 11 guys on that defensive line, and 2 guys could come free, whether that's on the second level of the defense or that's in the hole. JJ can he just run you over. I mean, he makes plays. He's a playmaker. So you can just give him a little daylight. You don't even have to have a gaping hole. You can give him like the smallest, an inch wide, and he can get through that hole and run through. When you're running through Kyle Williams and Marcel Darius, I mean, that's a pretty tough defensive line to have a 200-yard game on with those guys in the middle of the football field, for God's sake. So Jay has done it against really good front sevens. Against the Jets, having 111 yards rushing on them with Leonard Williams, Sheldon Richardson, and Muhammad Wilkerson, that's a tough defensive line to run on. So we've done it before. Jay is going to be a tough go for them. Tough go for the Buccaneers. But if we could do a good job of keeping their linebackers out of the backfield, from them flying around, hitting Jay as soon as he gets the handoff, then I think we'll be fine. Because the offensive line, I think the offensive line is obviously relatively healthy, but most of it's intact. So that shouldn't be an issue. But again, you give Jay Ajayi a little bit of daylight, it's game over. I don't think I have no question marks that Jay's gonna get that done at all. And people come back to the fact, he needs to be more consistent than he was last year. If you look at the games that he didn't have a Jay Ajayi game, it was because the offensive line was beat up, and obviously people point out the 49ers game, people point out the Rams game, the Chargers game. What happened to those games is our offensive line just did not the greatest job. Or excuse me, not the Chargers, but the Rams game and 49ers game. They just didn't do the greatest job of run blocking because of, obviously, Sam Young was on there. The offensive line was really, really beat up. So not Jay's fault. So I have no questions. He's going to have a good game. He had, again, watching him this preseason, he looks so much better than he did last year, and that's saying a lot. But Jay Ajayi looked oh my God, he looked amazing in preseason. So there's nothing there that Jay is Jay. Jay's gonna get his. But Damian Williams and Kenyon Drake, I think, really need to have a good game in the receiving game. Really, if Jay Cutler has to check it down, screens, whatever, really be prolific in the receiving game. Make your guy miss. It's going to be tough because of these linebackers. I mean, these guys fly around, and they're super athletic, and they're really good in coverage, especially Levante David, who's been one of the better linebackers in this league for many years. But if they can have a good game in the receiving game, really give Jay Cutler easy completions, especially in the screen game, check downs. Obviously, Adam loves matching up running backs on linebackers and safeties, and we have the talent to do that. We saw that with Damian Williams last year, and we saw that with Kenyon Drake last year. If they could just get loose in the receiving game a little bit, and keep the chains moving, and give Jay Cutler easy completions, I think obviously they're capable of that, and it's just going to make it easier on the offense. But the running back group, they should have a really good game as long as the offensive line can really establish the running game early on, keep the linebackers out of the backfield, which is going to be hard, and do a really good job pulling on stretch plays, getting to that second level, making sure the linebackers don't get there. I think we'll have a really good day. And even if they don't, I think Jay is more than capable of breaking one or two tackles and getting a favorable game. All right, let's talk about the receiver group and their matchups they're going to have going into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Obviously, the starters for the Buccaneers, they have Vernon Hargreaves, Brent Grimes. Behind them, they have Robert McClain and Ryan Smith. So their first two guys there, Vernon Hargreaves and Brent Grimes, they're shorter guys. They're very feisty, good man coverage guys. Obviously, Vernon Hargreaves he's made a living on man coverage ever since he played to Florida. He's just been an absolute beast. Brent Grimes is getting up there in age. He's making his return to Miami, obviously. Don't have to tell you guys that. I'm sure you guys are very excited about that. Robert McClain and Ryan Smith behind them. One thing that the secondary, obviously they let up a franchise record for Derek Carr, breaking the Raiders franchise record for 500-plus passing yards. What the Raiders really did is they spreaded them out a lot. They had a lot of three wide receiver sets, 4 wide receiver sets on the football field, and they really attacked the middle of that field a lot. And with Seth Roberts, obviously the game-winning touchdown was to Seth. But, the receivers were able to, really make some plays down the football field. One thing we know about Brent Grimes is his, especially his last year in Miami. Now, he was, he had a bounce back year with the Buccaneers. He had a pretty decent year there. But he can be, I'm not saying he's washed up because he did have a good year last year. But some things that he struggled with when he was with us is Kenny Stills like players like Sammy Watkins, great route runners with great speed. He really struggled against those guys, and protecting the deep ball. Especially we left him on an island a lot, and he really struggled, especially his last year. But throughout his career in Miami, he struggled with faster guys who can run routes. So I think if it's going to be a tough matchup. Those are two very solid corners. But if we can really do what the Raiders did, maybe line up, because obviously Adam loves lining up in empty sets a lot. I think we can take advantage of the depth at their cornerback room, and have success there, and in the quick passing game, especially, and especially in the middle of the football field. And whoever is going to line up with Jarvis in the slot, whether that's Vernon or Brent, and then obviously the guys on the outside, I just don't think their depth there is super strong. And I think we can take advantage of that, similar to what the Raiders did. And obviously there's safeties with Justin Evans and Chris Conte, and then obviously they just signed TJ Ward. Obviously I don't know how many steps TJ is going to take, but Justin Evans, he's a rookie out of Texas A&M, and Chris Conte, obviously, he's not the greatest safety in the world. So we could take advantage of that secondary. The two starting corners, though, very, very tough, especially if the pass rush is getting after us. They can make plays on the football, whether that's the ball placement isn't exactly where it needs to be. They'll jump that and pick it off. They're very talented guys. So not saying they're not talented, but I think we could spread them out and really exploit that depth there, and take shots downfield with that safety room. Obviously, so we'll see. But I think our receiver group, obviously the talent is there with Devon. I cannot wait to see Devontae Parker's debut for the regular season, to see him play an entire football game. I don't have to tell you guys, he's been tearing it up. He's been absolutely tearing it up. So I like our matchups there. Obviously DP is probably the tallest guy who's going to be out there. Brent Grimes maybe is 5'10". Vernon is maybe 5'10", so he has the size advantage there, and we know that Jay loves throwing up those 50-50 balls. So if he gets a one-on-one, and especially with DP's high point ability and his speed, I like that matchup a lot. So I would like to see the receivers do better, and I've talked about this the entire preseason is executing screens. It's such a big part of Adam Gase's offense, and it could be very deadly. Adam Gase isn't an idiot. He doesn't just call screens to call a screen. If there's a blitz on, and we have numbers on the outside to throw that screen, if you watch some of the Chicago, but with Jeremy Langford, man, he calls them at the right. We just don't execute them. We never execute screens. And Adam Gase knows what he's doing. He knows when to call a screen. Just execute it, and that's going to be a big thing going into this game. If they send some blitzes, man, execute the screen. Just execute it, because it could be very deadly. If we get the ball in DP's hands, which people forget of how, and you've seen this just throughout his career in Miami, how good of a receiver he is running after the catch. He is so good at that. He's super elusive for his size, super elusive, and we know he's got 4.3 speed at his size. That's crazy. So, and we know what Juice can do with the football in his hands in the open field. That's lights out. So, we just have to execute screens. I want to see DP get loose in the screen game. I want to see Juice get loose in the screen game. Just do a better job. It's about executing them. The play, it's there. It's there. The call is there. It has nothing to do with the call. It's just the execution is poor. So we just need to do a better job of executing screens. And I think we should, hopefully we see more empty sets, maybe on, second and shorts. And we saw with the Raiders, they were able to do their, 3 receiver sets, multiple receivers on the football field, which we're very capable of doing because of the depth there. I think we can take advantage of some of those matchups. All right, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins defensive line versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. This is going to be a very key area if the Dolphins want to have any success against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense on the defensive side of the football. So I think, again, this is a really key area. I talked about a little bit about this in the fan Q&A. If we want to have any success on defense, especially with the skill position talent that they present with O.J. Howard, Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, it's going to be tough to stop those guys. You can only hope to contain them. They're going to make their plays. But if we can stuff the run, get them in third and long, get them in second and longs, allow our pass rush to do a good job, or just allow our pass rush to be our pass rush, allow our strengths of our defense to be strengths, then we're going to have a good day on defense. So, all right, let's look at some of the matchups. So their left tackle for the Buccaneers is Donovan Smith. Their right tackle is DeMar Dotson. Their right guard is J.R. Sweezy. Their center is Marpet, and their left guard is Kevin Pamphile. So they don't have like a household name there on their offensive line, and that's something that they've struggled with, is establishing a line of scrimmage with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. And that's something that they've wanted to do, is get the running game behind Jameis Winston. They haven't had a ton of success keeping that on a consistent basis. So we can really take advantage of this, especially with Sue's matchup. I mean, Marpet's a really good center. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's not a bad center. J.R. Sweezy's been around the league a while. He had a nice career with Seattle. So if we could get, especially with their tackles, I mean, I think probably, DeMar Dotson, they're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm saying we could take advantage, because the talent level of our defensive line, I think, can take advantage of their offensive line. We just have to stuff the run. We have to be dominant in the running game. We can't. I'm serious when I say this is going to be a key to this game. We cannot allow the Buccaneers to run on our defensive line. If they do, it's going to be a long day on offense. They can take more shots down the football field. Man, we cannot allow them to run the football field. That opens up their playbook even more. They can take shots to Deshaun Jackson. Mike Evans is no slouch. He's not just a big guy. He can run, and he's a great route runner. So we have to take advantage of the line of scrimmage in this game. We have to. We can't. It's so crucial to this game. So yeah, if you look at their running back depth here, it's not impressive at all. Jaquiz Rogers, who has been a journeyman throughout his career with the Atlanta Falcons, now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at Charles Sims, is their second guy out, who is a really good receiving back. That's something that the Dolphins need to watch out for. They love getting him involved in the passing game. Dirk Cutter loves getting Charles Sims involved in the screen game. So the linebackers need to key on him for sure. That should definitely be in the game plan. Peyton Barber is their third guy out. So they don't have an impressive running back group. I mean, that's probably the least talented positional group on their offense, probably besides the offensive line on the offense, because their tight ends are obviously stacked with Cameron Bray and O.J. Howard. Again, the running back group as of right now is not super talented. Doug Martin, I think, is serving a 3-game suspension, if I'm not mistaken. So we can take advantage of the running game. They don't have a ton of talent in that backfield. Charles Sims is probably the most talented out of the 3. And, if we can stop, he's more of a receiving running back than he is a runner. If we can just stuff that run, then I think we can. That's the most important thing, in my opinion. Just do not let them run the football on us. If we can do that, then our defensive line should have a ton of success getting them in 3rd and longs, getting them in 2nd and longs, allowing our pass rush to dominate this football game will be good. Allow our strengths on defense to be strengths and not be weaknesses. Then we'll have a really, really good day on defense. All right, let's talk about the offense overall and some of the things that I think they need to do just as a group to win this football game. Number one, get off to a faster start. That's been something that's plagued the Dolphins for not just under Adam Gase, but with this group for the last 3-4 years. For some reason, we just get off to these terrible, terrible starts. Our first quarter point differential was so bad last year that it almost made you just like, it was crazy. We have to get off to a better start in the first quarter. We cannot, look up at the scoreboard, be down 10 points, which we did a lot last year, and then come back in the second half. We can't do that with this pass rush. That gives them even more opportunities to rush the passer, more opportunities to get after Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler's going to have to pass for a ton in that game. And their defense is too talented to do that. It just gives them more opportunities. So we have to get off to a faster start in this football game. And number 2, 3rd down conversion rate. I think what helps with that is we just cannot get into so many 3rd and longs. You just can't get smacked around. You can't get stuffed on 1st down. And it'd be next thing you look up, it's 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 8. It's hard to get 15 to 10 plus yards against a defense of this caliber. It's almost undoable, and your conversion rate's going to be terrible because their defense is too talented for that. You're not going to get 15 yards 100% of the time. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't happen for any offense. Have to win the battle on 1st and 2nd down. You just have to, and that's probably the number one thing this Dolphins offense has struggled with last year, especially was 3rd down conversion rate. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible, and that is something that that is something that we're going to have to do a better job of in this game. We have to stay on the football field. We were last in the NFL last year in offensive snaps taken. This offense is so very talented. That is not good enough. They have to be on the football field longer. And 3rd down conversion rate, that connects directly to time of possession. So that allows your defense to be rested. They're not as tired. They're not as worn down. That allows them to be successful in the running game. All of those things affect the football game. It's not just on the offensive side of the football. It's on the defensive side of the football. You don't want your defense taking more snaps than your offense is taking. That's not a good recipe for winning at all. So the offense has to get off to a better start. 3rd down conversion rate has to be better. And that all starts with 1st and 2nd down. If we can get into 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, in that range, we're good. We can get 6 yards with this offense. That's obviously a higher rate there than getting a 3rd and 10. So it's just it's simple stuff like that. We just have to do a better job at the little things. And then obviously another area that we cannot. If you go back and watch Dolphins games last year, just go watch all of the Dolphins games. We got a ton of turnovers on the defensive side of football. We actually got more turnovers than the Seattle Seahawks did in their secondary. That's a lot of turnovers. With a lot of those turnovers, we settled for field goals. We cannot do that against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we cannot do that for this regular season. If we want to be a dominant football team, we have to cash in with touchdowns more often than not. Our red zone efficiency was not as good. It was not good last year. We did a great job. Obviously, Jay Ajayi, having him for full 16 games. People forget he didn't start for the full 16 games last year. Having him as a goal line weapon that he is, obviously that's going to help our red zone numbers. Getting Julius Thomas, Devontae Parker is the best he's ever been, so that's going to help the red zone numbers. The offensive lines together, that's going to help the red zone numbers. All of those things help, but we just have to execute we just have to cash in on turnovers. We did, as a defense, we weren't we were obviously statistically, in terms of yards given up, the worst Dolphins defense in the franchise's history. But we did do some good things last year. We were really good on 3rd down. We led the NFL for most of the year in 3rd down conversion rate against offenses. We're having a super tough time of converting 3rd downs because of our pass rush. And then you look at our ability to get turnovers. We got a lot of turnovers last year is my point. And something that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers struggled with last year was turning the football over because Jameis Winston really tries to do too much a lot of the time. He's not conservative. He's a gunslinger. That's the way he plays. And a lot of the time, that bails him out of a lot of situations, but most of the time, it's going to get picked off. So if we do get a turnover, which it's going to happen this game because of the Buccaneers' resume, we have to cash in on it. I don't care if it's on the 50-yard line or the 40-yard line or we're on our own 10-yard line. Do something with the football when we get a turnover. You just can't. You just have to do that. You just have to. So all of those things are going to be keys to the game on the offensive side of the football. All right, let's talk about the defense overall as a group and something that they need to do better of, and some of the things that we saw in preseason that we just have to do a better job of. Number one, and I said this earlier in the video, but our third down defense last year was very, very strong. It was very, very good. Our pass rush was able to get after quarterbacks when we got them in 3rd and 10 plus. In the preseason, our third downs on 3rd and shorts, that's a totally different story. We really struggled in short yardage situations. So that's something that we have to do a better job of, is really stepping up. If there is a 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 5 out there, step up and make a play. Somebody on the defense has to make a play. That's a tough ask, especially with the offense that we're going up against, but that's just something you got to do. So short yardage situations we have to do a better job of. We just have to. The Buccaneers are not known for their quick passing game. They're more known for, taking shots downfield, taking those chances with Mike Evans, the shots with Mike Evans, with the 50-50 ball, and obviously Deshaun Jackson. And God knows that Jameis Winston's going to bomb a few deep. So that's just his nature. So we have to do a better job of, in short yardage situations, to get them off the football field. And again, they're not known for the quick passing game. And in the middle of the football field, have to do a better job. You just got to do a better job. That was something in the preseason that we saw a lot of. That was very concerning, and it didn't look like it has been fixed at all. And some of the guys that they have that can exploit that is Humphreys, their slot receiver, O.J. Howard especially, Cameron Brate especially. Those guys over the middle of the football field. Easiest completion in the NFL is in the middle of the football field. If there is somebody wide open in the middle of the football field, especially right up the seam, that's the easiest completion in the world. That is the easiest. It's so easy. It's so much harder to complete a pass that's 20 yards down the field on the sideline. That's just way harder. So we have to limit those easy completions. Limit the quick passing game. Another thing that we have to do, we just have to, is make your tackles in the open field. If it's a 3rd and 6, a lot of the times in the short yardage situations when they do convert them, that we've seen especially in preseason, in the 2016 season, a perfect example of that is Bilal Powell. We could just put on a tape of how bad our tackling is in the open field. If there's a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, and he checks down to the running back, you got to come up and make that tackle. You cannot miss that tackle. You miss that tackle, that's another 3 or 4 plays for their offense. And their offense is too talented to do that. This isn't the New York Jets. If we let them do that kind of stuff, we have to make our tackles in the open field, or it's going to be a long day on defense. You got to wrap up. I really want the interior. I'm really looking for the interior of this defensive line to have a good game. I really want Devon Godshaw and Sue to really impose their will on their offensive line. Make it hard to run up the trenches, especially in short yardage situations. I don't want Jameis Winston to be able to step up in the pocket. Really make sure we get pressure up in the middle of that pocket. Make it difficult for Jameis Winston. That's another thing that we need to do in this game, which that's not something that we've struggled with at all. But that's something that I would like to see in this game. But yeah, just short yardage situations, over the middle of the football field. But to be honest with you guys, I really don't expect that to be fixed. And, if it is fixed, well, hallelujah. But we just got to do a better job. Just do the best job we can of over the middle of the football field. If we can clean some of that, this is the number one thing that we struggle with. Just limit the passes over the middle. Then we'll be fine. We'll be totally fine. Obviously, Nate Allen and Rashad, having Rashad back is a blessing and a half. So that should help us with coverage in the middle of the football field, having Rashad patrolling, coming in near the line of scrimmage, and especially in short yardage situations. So that's going to help the defense. I think overall the defensive talent is better than it was last year. I don't think that's even a question. But the linebacker core, especially with Timmons and Kiko, whoever's going to start next to them, whether it's Ray or I'm assuming it's going to be Ray or whoever it is, they just need to do a good job. Or if it's Mike Cole, they just need to do a good job in coverage. And I want them to start on the outside. I want Kiko or Lawrence to start in the middle. I would prefer Lawrence, but because he looked tremendous. Just whatever that linebacker is, whoever's going to start there, they have to do a half decent job in coverage. And I know Ray Maluga, he's a really good run defender. I have no question, but do a better job in coverage, and over the middle of the football field is going to be very crucial. So that's about it for the defense. Obviously, with some of the secondary matchups with Byron Maxwell and Xavier Howard going up against D-Jax and Mike Evans, if I had to have had a preference, if it was me doing it, I would put Byron Maxwell on Mike Evans, and I would put X on D-Jax. I think that probably would be the best one to go with. Obviously, both, especially Deshaun, he's not just a burner; he can run routes as well. So I think Byron matches up better with his strengths with Mike, because Mike is a very physical receiver. And obviously Byron's a very physical corner, so their strengths kind of collide there. And Xavier's strengths are that, but I think Byron Maxwell struggles against smaller, quicker receivers on the outside more than he does big guys that don't have elite speed like a Deshaun Jackson. So in the secondary, that's probably what I would like to see in terms of matchups. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's my preview for this week. Let me know what you guys' keys are to this game. I would love to hear them. It's going to be a tough game on defense, but I think our offense can score some points this game. We definitely have to if we get turnovers, we have to capitalize on them. And can't have our defense out there for very, very long. We have to take more snaps. To be honest with you guys, this game is more on the offense than it is the defense. This game is going to rely on the offense for many different reasons. The offense can keep our defense off the football field if they can control the clock, if they can have more snaps on the football field, if they can run the football with Jay Ajayi. Jay's going to have a big game. The offense overall got to convert third downs. This is going to be won by the offense. We have to keep our defense off. I don't care if we have the Seahawks defense. This offense is very, very good. So we have to keep them off the field as much as possible. So to me, this game is going to be won with this offense for those reasons, for time of possession, third, all that kind of stuff. Keep them off the football field, control the clock, and I think we have a really good chance of winning the football game. And on the defensive side of the football, win the battle in the trenches. You have to win the battle in the trenches. So those are my keys to the game. Let me know what you guys think about it. What are you guys' key to this bucket? I'm super excited. I can't wait to see this offense. I can't wait to see this offense because I think it's going to be a really fun group to watch this year. They're going to be dominant. And it's going to be really fun to watch. They're going to score a lot of points this year. And I forgot to mention Jakeem Grant. I mean, I think he's going to have a big role in this game as well. So our offense can be really, really, really fun to watch. So a couple housekeeping things before I let you guys go. If you haven't yet, go check out DolphinsTalk.com. If you're itching for even more Dolphins content, go check out DolphinsTalk.com. Also check out their Twitter if you want to be updated with the latest news and everything Dolphins at Dolphins. Is their Twitter. If you want to go check out my channel, we release Dolphins content daily. We have a podcast. We do a fan Q&A. We do a bunch of awesome stuff on my channel. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you want to be part of the best community on Miami Dolphins, for the Dolphins on YouTube, go check out the channel. And make sure you comment down in the section below. And I am Skyx1083, and I will see you guys in the next one.